Once upon a time, there lived a man called Jonah. He was a prophet. God had specially chosen him to take messages to his people. But Jonah did not always do as God said. One day, God said, "Jonah, I want you to go to Nineveh. It's an enormous city. It's full of people who do bad things. You must tell them that if they go on like this, I will destroy them." The people in Nineveh were enemies of God's people. Jonah wanted God to destroy them, but he did not want to go to Nineveh. "I know what will happen," he thought to himself. "It's happened before. If I go to Nineveh with that message, the people will be afraid. They will tell God they are sorry, and because he is a loving God, he will forgive them. I would much rather he punish them." So Jonah ran the other way, away from Nineveh. Jonah wanted to get away from God and from Nineveh, so he went down to the sea and asked for a ride in a boat. When the boat had started on its journey, Jonah felt better. "God hasn't spoken to me while I've been on the boat, so I must have left him behind," thought Jonah. "And I'm certainly going away from Nineveh." But after a little while, a terrible storm began. The boat went up and down on the enormous waves. The wind blew it in the wrong direction. The sailors were frightened. They thought they would all be drowned. But Jonah got into his bunk and went to sleep. "When I wake up, the storm will have stopped," he thought. Jonah slept, but only for a little while. Then the ship's captain came to wake him up. "What are you doing asleep?" he asked. "We are all going to be drowned. Don't you have a God to pray to?" Then Jonah saw how silly he had been. "It's all my fault," he said. "My God has sent this storm to stop me running away from him. If you throw me into the sea, the storm will stop." The captain was afraid. He did not want Jonah to drown, but Jonah knew it was the only way to stop the storm. So in the end, they threw Jonah over the side into the water. The storm stopped at once. The captain and the other men said, "This God of Jonah's must be very powerful, if even the storm obeys him." They did not know that God had sent an enormous fish to swallow Jonah. Jonah was very frightened. It was slimy and dark inside the fish. "Help me!" he shouted to God. "I can see how bad I've been. You are a great God, and I should be obeying you." After 3 days, the fish spat Jonah out onto some land. Then it swam away, feeling much better. "Now," God said to Jonah, "please go to Nineveh as I told you." So Jonah set off for Nineveh. He could still remember what God had told him to say. Jonah told the people in Nineveh that God was angry about the things they did. He said that God would punish them if they did not change. The people believed him. They told God how sorry they were, and they began to try to please God.